You're not really in control, not of your thoughts, not of your choices, not even of who you fall in love with, because something else is driving, silently, secretly, always. It's called the unconscious mind. And it doesn't ask for permission. It whispers behind your decisions. It reacts before you even think, and then it lets you believe that you chose it. This is the illusion of control, and most people never break it. You wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, check your phone, scroll through someone else's life, and you think it's a routine. But it's a program, a script written deep inside your brain, long before you knew how to question it. Your unconscious mind doesn't care about logic. It obeys patterns, emotion, habit, repetition. When you walk into a room and feel uncomfortable but can't explain why, that's your unconscious. When you instantly dislike someone without a single reason, that's your unconscious. When you sabotage something good because it feels too unfamiliar, again, that's your unconscious. You don't see it, but it sees you, every version of you, since the beginning. Psychologists call it the shadow self. Carl Jung believed it holds everything you reject, everything you hide, everything you pretend not to feel. And yet it governs more of your life than the thoughts you're aware of, because the brain evolved for survival, not clarity. Your conscious mind is like the CEO, but the unconscious is the factory, running 24/7. And sometimes it's running off of broken blueprints. If your childhood taught you that love is loud and painful and distant, then guess what kind of love you'll seek as an adult. If your past made you feel worthless, your unconscious will attract people who confirm that belief. This isn't sabotage, this is familiarity. The unconscious doesn't care if it hurts. It cares if it feels known, safe, predictable. That's why you repeat cycles, why you fall for the same types of people, why you keep choosing comfort over growth. Even when you say you want something else, you're not broken. You're following a script you didn't know was playing, but once you see it, once you name it, everything begins to shift. Because the moment you bring the unconscious into awareness is the moment you start to reclaim power. But here's the catch. The unconscious doesn't give up control easily. It fights back with resistance, procrastination, fear, discomfort. You'll feel tired just before you're about to break a pattern. You'll feel anxious just before you speak a new truth. You'll doubt yourself the moment you start to evolve. Why? Because growth feels dangerous to the part of you that only understands repetition. That's why some people stay stuck, not because they're lazy, but because their unconscious believes the past is safer than the unknown, even if the past was painful. And here's where most people make the mistake. They try to fight their unconscious mind with discipline, with shame, with willpower. But this doesn't work, because the unconscious doesn't speak the language of force. It speaks the language of emotion. To change your life, you don't need more motivation. You need a new emotional association. Your unconscious needs to feel that the new way is safer than the old. And that takes time, repetition, compassion. You can't beat your unconscious, but you can rewire it. You think you're making decisions, but often your unconscious has already decided. Your logic just shows up to justify it. This is not a glitch. It's how the brain protects you. But here's where it gets dangerous. If the past was full of chaos, your unconscious will mistake peace for boredom, and you'll push it away. If you were ignored growing up, your unconscious will chase attention, even from the wrong people. It doesn't care about what's good. It cares about what's familiar. Let's talk about triggers. A trigger is not just something that makes you angry or sad. It's a window into the unconscious. When you overreact, when you shut down, when you feel something too strongly for the moment, that's a sign that your unconscious is confusing now with then. A co-worker critiques your work, and suddenly it feels like your father never approved of you. Your partner asks you to communicate, and it feels like you're being smothered again. You get rejected once, and it confirms the belief, I'm not good enough. These reactions aren't random. They're echoes. Your unconscious is reliving an old experience through a new one. And unless you pause and name it, you'll keep reacting the same way. Now let's talk about trauma. Not the obvious kind, but the kind that hides. Sometimes trauma isn't what happened, it's what didn't happen. You weren't hit, but you were never seen. You weren't abused, but you were emotionally starved. And so, you grew up learning that your needs didn't matter, that being silent was safer, that shrinking was survival. These patterns didn't start with weakness, they started with protection. But here's the twist. What once protected you now limits you, because your unconscious doesn't know you've grown. It still sees you as the scared child, just trying to feel safe. That's why every time you try to expand, to speak, to lead, to shine, your unconscious tries to pull you back into safety, back into smallness, back into silence, and you call it self-sabotage. But it's not. It's self-protection that's out of date. Now let's talk about free will. Most people believe they're free, that they're choosing their path, their reactions, their life. But most behavior is automatic. Up to 95% of your daily actions are driven by unconscious programming, not because you're weak, but because your brain is efficient. Why think deeply about brushing your teeth or walking downstairs or replying to a "hey"? Efficiency is survival, but in emotional life, it becomes limitation. So what's the solution? You can't escape your unconscious, but you can reprogram it. Here's how. 1. Awareness is the first break in the cycle. Next time you're triggered, pause. Don't react. Just notice. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? And where have I felt this before? Naming it starts the shift, because what you don't name, you repeat. 2. Repetition creates a new truth. The unconscious doesn't believe what's logical, it believes what's repeated. So if you want to rewrite a belief, you don't argue with it. You install a new one, over and over, until it feels like the new normal. This is why affirmations can work, but only if they're emotional, consistent, and connected to action. 3. Embody the new pattern. Don't just think it, feel it, act it. If your unconscious believes you're powerless, do one small thing daily that shows power. If it believes love equals pain, set a boundary and prove otherwise. Change doesn't happen in the mind, it happens in the plant's body. Because the unconscious lives in the body, in your gut, your breath, your tension, your posture. Change your state and you change your programming. Let's pause again. You're not here to escape your unconscious. You're here to befriend it, to understand it, to lead it. Because once you do, you stop reacting and start responding. And that's where real power begins. You think you are who you are. But who you are is a collection of what your unconscious mind decided was safe. That's your identity. And most of it is inherited. From your parents, your childhood, your culture, your pain. You didn't choose to be quiet. You learned it kept you out of trouble. You didn't choose to overwork. You learned it earned love. You didn't choose to feel unworthy. You learned it was easier than being disappointed. The unconscious builds your identity to protect you, but then it forgets to update the script. And that's the prison. You walk through life thinking, this is just who I am. I'm not good at speaking up. I'm always anxious. I always mess up relationships. But none of that is you. It's the armor you wore when you didn't know you had a choice. Now let's talk about something you didn't expect. The fear of success. Sounds strange, right? But many people don't fear failure. They fear what will happen if they actually win, because success demands responsibility, visibility, change, and for the unconscious mind, change equals danger. If you've always felt small, then success feels unsafe. If you've always been abandoned, then love feels temporary. If you've always struggled, then ease feels suspicious. This is the hidden sabotage, the one that doesn't look like fear, but feels like distraction, overthinking, avoidance, and it all starts in the unconscious. So how do you break free? You have to stop waiting to feel ready, because your unconscious will never feel ready for something it's never experienced. That's not a flaw, that's biology. Instead, you need to move despite the resistance, and then retrain the mind to see safety in expansion. Here's the final process. Step 1. Witness your patterns. Don't judge them, just watch them. Observe how you shrink, how you react, how you avoid. The unconscious reveals itself in the moments you don't feel in control. Your job is not to fight, but to get curious. Step 2. Interrupt the loop. Next time you feel triggered, do something small but different. Pause before replying, breathe before reacting. Speak when you normally go silent. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be new. New choices equals new wiring. Step 3. Teach your body it's safe. Your unconscious lives in the nervous system, so if you want it to change, you must calm it. Try grounding, journaling, breathwork, walking in nature. The more your body feels regulated, the more your unconscious will trust the new path, because safety is the language of transformation. Step 4. Repeat until it becomes you. Your unconscious doesn't believe you the first time or the second, but it learns through consistency. So show up again, say the truth again, hold the boundary again. Eventually, it listens. Eventually, it obeys. This is how you reclaim your life, not by force, but by leadership. You become the one who sees the unconscious in action and chooses differently. You become the one who makes peace with the past and writes a new future. You become the one who no longer fears the unknown because you've learned how to guide it. Let's leave with this. Your unconscious is not your enemy. It's not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you. But now, you're not a child anymore. You don't need protection. You need power. You need freedom. You need truth. And truth only begins when you stop reacting to life and start questioning the story. That's where change begins. Not with who you pretend to be, but with who you were before the world told you to be someone else. So now you know. There's a part of you you've never truly met, but it's been running your life in silence. It shaped your fears. It wrote your habits. It whispered who you're allowed to be. And if you don't confront it, you'll keep living a life that was never really yours. But the moment you face it, the moment you slow down, ask questions, and choose to lead yourself, that's when everything begins to change. That's when the old story ends and a new one begins. If you're ready to stop being a prisoner of your own unconscious mind, then start small. Because change doesn't begin with a breakthrough. It begins with a choice. One quiet, uncomfortable, powerful choice. Pick one pattern you've been repeating. You know which one, the one that's been haunting you in silence, the one that shows up in every job, every relationship, every failed attempt to move forward. Pick that one. And today, interrupt it. You don't need to do it perfectly. You just need to do it differently. Say something new. Think something different. Act out of courage, not comfort. Pause instead of reacting. Speak when you normally stay quiet. Walk away when you usually cling. Your unconscious mind won't like it. It'll fight back. It'll whisper things like, "This won't work. You're not ready. Who do you think you are?" Let it whisper and keep going anyway. Because growth isn't about feeling safe. It's about learning how to keep moving even when you don't. Most people never reach their potential not because they're weak, but because their unconscious convinces them to stay inside the familiar. They call it stuck, but really it's just unquestioned programming. You don't have to be one of them. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I keep ending up here? Why does this always happen to me? Why do I push away the things I want most? Then this is your wake-up call. This is the moment you stop blaming the world and start taking back your mind. Because your unconscious isn't your enemy, it's a system. And like any system, it can be redesigned. You don't have to do it alone, but you do have to do it on purpose. Start by becoming aware. That's step 1. Awareness is the scalpel. It cuts through the automatic. Notice the pattern. Interrupt the reaction. Sit with the discomfort and breathe through the fear. Because every time you do that, you prove to your unconscious, we're safe now. We don't need to repeat the past. And over time, it listens. Most people wait for the perfect moment to change. But perfection is a trap. It's just another program meant to keep you frozen. Real change is messy. It's emotional. It's raw. But it's real. And real is what rewires the mind. You've made it this far. That means something. It means part of you is already waking up. And maybe you're scared. That's okay. So was I. So is everyone who's ever broken the cycle. But the truth is, you're not just scared of failing. You're scared of what it means to finally succeed. To become someone who doesn't apologize for existing. Who doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. Who doesn't keep repeating what was never meant to define them. So let's make a pact, right here, you and me. No more autopilot, no more lying to yourself, no more shrinking, apologizing, avoiding, numbing, no more letting the past be louder than the present, because who you were doesn't have to decide who you become. That power is yours now, not the world's, not your parents', not your traumas, yours. If you felt even a flicker of something real during this video, don't scroll away like nothing happened. Pause, let it land, let it sink in. Then do one small thing differently today, one thing your unconscious wouldn't expect, and tomorrow, do it again. That's how change begins, not in a single moment, but in a new pattern, repeated over and over until it becomes your truth. If this message hit you, if it reached a part of you that rarely gets spoken to, then do this. Comment below. What's the one belief I'm ready to unlearn? Like this video if it sparked something real. Subscribe if you're ready to break the cycle for good. And most of all, remember this. The unconscious mind might run your life, but only if you let it.